Oh, hey, Christina, how the heck's it going? Oh,
It's going well. How about you?
look who we have here. It's
Yeah.
Bogdan. Bogdan, how are you, man?
Hey, good to see you, Christina.
Oh, thanks so much for coming. How are you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. Thanks for
Oh,
having me.
oh, that's great, great, great. Glad to see everybody in chat. It looks like we got a rip roaring crowd piling in. We are live on YouTube, LinkedIn, as well as over on X. Do please be aware, we are doing YouTube chat exclusively. So if you want to join the conversation, we encourage you to do so. Head on over to YouTube and join in the conversation. All right. So good to see you. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Um, all right. So, Christina, did you want to do the question of the day?
I do. So, question of the day, and it's a special one because we have Bogdan here. Do you want to go ahead and throw that up, Chris? And we'll.
Yep.
So, have you, yes, you, watching this live stream, used the Fabric Admin Monitoring Workspace? Put it in the chat. We're really excited about this, and we would love to hear from you. What's your experience with it? Have you used it? Do you even know it exists? Put all that in the chat so we can talk about it.
It's
So
fantastic.
after the question of the day, now that we're talking about the question of the day and you're, obviously typing in your chat responses, let's go over some of our rules for the chat. So first rule, preface any of your questions with a Q: we're just following Guy in a Cube rules. Rule number 2 is don't spam the chat. Um, don't repeat those questions. We do see them and we will get to them. So we look forward to seeing those come in. So please go ahead and throw in as many as you can think of because we're excited to talk about this.
Yeah, both Christina and I have a huge passion for the admin space. Bogdan, do you want to introduce yourself and let the world what it is you do at Microsoft?
Yeah. So my name is Bogdan. I'm a senior PM within the Fabric admin and governance space, and we're working a lot with the administration and governance and monitoring scenarios for Fabric. So there's a lot of excitement with the new features that we just rolled out, and we've gone GA, and now of course we're focusing on making sure we're providing you the important monitoring features. So that's what our team typically focuses on.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. So glad to have you here. Um, uh, it's great to have you. It's good to see everyone in the chat too. So just gonna call out some of the people we see here. Um, uh, Jason Campbell saying he's using the monitoring hub and capacity metrics. Yes, he's doing that. Uh, Daryl said he's using the capacity metrics. Yes, but Fabric monitoring hub. I guess that's a no. I wonder if that's. Well, we could get more into that.
I think it's
Tom
a not
Pear.
yet, Chris.
Oh,
It's a not yet.
not yet. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and I think that's a lot of it, right? So um all right, that is so great. And Bogdan, do you want to give us a little history on this solution, having this separate workspace?
Yeah, thanks. This has been top of our mind for the last 2.5 years. So even before Fabric, we were thinking to have a out-of-the-box centralized place, from very close interaction with customers, in general community feedback. We've seen the need to simplify the admin experience. Today, it's pretty challenging to get all the audit logs, inventory, and all the associated information, extracting it to APIs and all sorts of technical things, and then having to munch the data, transforming it, and then storing it, and then creating a BI solution on top of it, cleansing data. All of that takes a lot of precious time for from the admin's limited schedule anyway. So we're thinking to, simplify the experience. We're going to provide you out of the box content in the form of data and reports, and you can either use what we have out of the box, or you can build your own additional things on top. And actually today I'll be showing both. So yeah.
Well,
Sweet.
that is fantastic. Oop.
And Bogdan,
And
before we get too far, what is your history? How did you get to where you are today in this awesome role at Microsoft? I'm assuming young Bogdan did not want to necessarily become a Microsoft PM, but I could be wrong. Yeah.
Actually, I've been working in the BI space for almost a decade now. So I think I would say 80% of my professional career I've been working within this space, and I've always been fascinated by, what Microsoft has been working on. Even in the early days when we had the Excel add-in, I was very excited, and I was kind of closely following the updates. And I think through my roles through banking and capital markets, I've always tried to use the BI to provide leaders, executives with dashboards, with experiences like that. And I've quickly come across all the challenges that admins usually face, including bottlenecks, optimizations, things stop working. So creating a dashboard on top of a dashboard has been sort of part of my journey for some time before joining the role for the last 2 years. So yeah, it's kind of been a continuing journey. It's just now more and more focused within the admin space as opposed to just a typical consumer and financial sectors.
so I love this because this is about as meta as it gets. You create dashboards that report on dashboards. Like that's fantastic, right? I mean, mwah, just absolutely wonderful.
As meta as you can get without being Facebook, right? Yeah.
Right, right, right,
Yeah.
right. Okay, well, let's dive right into that. Let's not dilly dally. But before we do, we want to do our sip of the day. So grab your beverage of choice. Let's all do this together so then we can all be ready for it. So whatever it is, coffee, juice, tea. If you have a problem and it's something harder, I mean, get help. But we understand you're drinking what you're drinking, right? But
It's 5 o'clock somewhere, Chris. Some people
that is
are
right.
actually at 5
That is
o'clock.
right, and you understand you've been tasked with figuring out if we can get a sponsorship from Buffalo Trace. So
That's right.
you
I
let
do
us
need to
know.
reach out.
Yeah. So let's take a sip and then we'll dive right into it. So. All right, Bogdan, what do you got for us today?
All right, so I have a short presentation, and at the end I'll be taking questions. So first of all, the workspace, it's right now in preview. We do have a lot of docs out there, and we have some demos during this presentation, but feel free to also reach out to the community because we can spend more time and really make sure you have the right information and you have the right experience. So without further ado, let me introduce the workspace a little bit. So just a second here. I'm going to be doing a 10 minutes introduction just for the initial backdrop. What is the point for this workspace? What's the overall context? And then within the workspace, what are going to be the capabilities? And then finally, we'll do some demos. And then the last part will be for the Q&As. So I know the chat has been a little bit mixed with what exactly is fabric monitoring. And I'm going to be making it clear for now. As of today, we are focusing exclusively for the first part of the quadrant. So only the usage and adoption will be addressed within admin monitoring. The consumption and resource utilization will still be handled within the capacity metrics app. And then finally, the last part is about monitoring jobs and refreshes. So that's within another product, which is the monitoring hub. So as of today, they're standalone features, but eventually that might change. So we'll definitely communicate when and how that would change if it changes. But as of now, just so everybody's aware, there are 3 separate features.
Okay, and so we're talking. Our box is usage and adoption, right?
Exactly. Yeah, just this one today. Yeah.
All right. Sounds good.
Yeah. So the target persona for the workspace, as the name implies, it's primarily admins, and within admin space today we're targeting just the fabric or the so-called tenant admin. So we're not focusing on the capacity admins or workspace admins so much. We're kind of primarily basing it on the admin fabric tenant admin persona. But with that being said, the workspace can be shared with other users and groups as well. So that will be shown in the demo. Other potential departments that can benefit from this is the Center of Excellence and BI teams, as well as the content creators and workspace admins themselves if they're managing large workspaces. And the auditors can also be using the workspace for understanding inventory and potential audit activities that have to be investigated. So within auditing and monitoring, we're looking at sort of the main 7 areas. There could be more, but today we're just focusing on a few of them. And by the way, if you want to learn more, I'll also be sharing the links. There's basically a lot of content that's already available in the public documentation about this. So I'm not going to be doing a deep dive, but I want to just give you the context that we're closely aligning with what's already out there in terms of our guidance and documentation.
Awesome.
So primarily for this demo, we're going to be focusing on the first 2 boxes, as well as understanding like ways to manage licensing. Like that's something that will be possible through the add-on experience that I'll be showing at the end. So we're providing a composite model, and the customers can provide their own licensing table, and basically that can provide the necessary information to glue together the 2 experiences, and that can help you easily manage your costs better. So from the perspective of licensing.
Do you have do you provide the specs for that other table by chance?
I'm actually mentioning how to obtain it, but
Okay.
we're looking eventually to have like a white paper as well that will outline the process. But for now, I'm just showing that it's doable and it's actually fairly standard. So yeah, without further ado, I'll jump into the actual main pillars. But I wanted to at least set the context that just because today the workspace does not have all of these data points, that doesn't mean you cannot use it and enhance it with your additional areas that you're interested in.
Sounds good.
Yeah. So typically user adoption is around understanding what are the top areas of the tenants. So in terms of understanding who are the top content creators or consumers, and now with Fabric, of course, that expands a lot more than just the typical report and dataset semantic model experience. So, but we're still keeping the perspective of the 2, the content creators versus consumers, as well as looking at how active are the different items used across the workspace, or even broader, looking at each particular workspace and how that is viewed within the capacity, and understanding if their assets are actually used in an effective way. So things like exporting to Excel, or repeatedly duplicating data, like that can become apparent once you start to combine audits and inventory information.
So a question for you, Bogdan, as you look at these different questions that you put out here, and if I'm a Power BI tenant admin, can you give me, why would I care about some of these things? Like maybe they're used to, maybe they're not. What do I care? Why is this something that I should be like wasting cycles on?
Very good question. And usually the top of mind is, it boils down to either the cost. So, is this product actually worth the cost? Are people using what I'm publishing? It's using resources. So is the usage actually, justifying the expense for managing the capacity, or whether things are using resources? Are the actual reports being viewed? That's one thing. Another one is being able to really tell management, like, are we using this product in an effective way? Are we, gradually increasing coverage across the company? Are we reducing a duplication? What's the impact? So at the end of the day, we want to make the information more accessible, but we also want to empower different personas. And basically, the admin's role is to really monitor the growth of the product, the platform, but also finding ways to enhance and educate the different departments on best usage of the resources. And of course, trying to minimize the resource usage, but also the cost.
Yeah, and I think this goes into like your ROI statement too, right? When you could say, okay, yeah, it's costing us this, but look how many people are using it, right? That really helps you with that justification of your budget, right?
Yeah.
And
Awesome.
eventually you can even justify more spending that way, right? Like, hey, look, we've grown our usage this amount. We're hitting these refresh failures. I think we can justify bumping up another level. Yeah,
Oh, that's an
that's huge.
excellent point, Christina. Yeah, I could even say, hey, look at Team A. They've got a P3 and they have X number of users. I have a P1 or an F64. I've got the same number of users. I'm encountering these issues. I need to have the scale capacity. Oh, I think that's great. That's fantastic. Good, good, good.
Yeah, another one similar is like, does the actual user behavior meet the expectations? So usually when uh, admins invest in a certain enterprise solution, they want to have periodic checkpoints with their leadership as well to see whether what they built meets the expectations. So whatever somebody might consider critical, we cannot tell until we look at the actual usage patterns. If that report is not being used a lot, then maybe it's not worth further investing in developing that kind of report.
Right?
All right. So these are some scenarios for the different subcategories. So again, we're within the first box here. We're looking at the usage patterns, and this is a very broad topic. And I think a lot of today will focus on this one alone, but it boils down to two areas. Either you're looking at the content usage, or you're looking at the user patterns. So with respect to the content usage, you want to understand what are the most popular areas. What type of fabric items are viewed the most or used the most, and also, is it repeatedly viewed by the same person? Like, what's the actual experience? Or are they actually used a lot consistently by a large user base? And possibly, if they're within a capacity that is heavily used, because the popularity increases for that item, potentially it could run into performance issues over time. So the trends are very important to really quantify the expenditure, the projected cost, and the investment for the future life cycle of that product.
I think that makes good sense.
And of course, over time, if something is used a lot and it's being developed within this workspace, then it will require stability and support. So that, of course, is part of the same idea. Like, we want to really target the critical areas of the tenant, whether they're being used a lot and they're running into performance issues, or whether maybe we want to raise awareness and make sure that people are using the best practices and standards.
I love that. There's a question in the chat, and maybe you can speak to this, Bogdan. Will we ever get to see page view events, visual interaction events, filter usage for reports, paginated report parameters, or is it intentional to remain at an item level?
Very good question. And that's something we're actively debating over. And of course, it may make sense within the model that I'm presenting to eventually add that, but at this point, we do not have enough detail to give you the direction. However, paginated reports can already be filtered in terms of the pure usage. So if you're looking at quantifying how many reports are being used, you can already filter by interactive report versus paginated, and you can already get the insight at that level. But it remains to be seen how we're going to evolve beyond the item detail.
And I would imagine, and correct me if I'm wrong, I would imagine, as if I was looking at the Power BI service and I wanted to report upon this, until you had the ability to have like that full CI/CD backend GitHub integration with the Power BI desktop, where those items have a much more solid naming or idea, whatever backend stuff. It would be very hard to have consistent and reliable reporting that would sit on top of that, providing usage. Now we go into and see that maybe that starts to become easier to do as we progress with the product. Is that right or no? Am I way off base?
No, I think it is right, but again, it comes down to the implications. What is the best way to really marry that data, the detailed data, with the more aggregated data that we're outlining here? So that's, I guess, the biggest part where we're validating right now with customers and with our engineering experts. We're really looking to see for what would be the ideal and best implementation. But definitely, it's on the top of our minds, and actually, that's something we're looking into addressing for this year. So hopefully, that
Okay.
should clarify the question.
I think so. And just for background, Andrew's providing a little more context. Just some pages are harder to maintain than others. You got crazy bookmarks, drill
Yeah,
patterns. If people aren't using them, right, like it would be great to kill them. So,
yeah,
that'd be awesome.
absolutely. Yeah,
And I'd
Awesome.
imagine
Okay.
the same is for the paginated report parameters, right? It'd be nice to know if people are only grabbing the last week of data. Stuff like that, I'm sure would be super cool to see.
Oh, right. How much do you have to load? How do you have to? Yeah, that's a good point.
yeah.
Awesome. All right. Cool. Let's keep going here.
And then another useful area is the endorsement and sensitivity labels. So
Mm.
it helps for audit and compliance, but it also helps for best practices. If you want to reduce duplication of data by endorsing a certain asset and promoting that it has the strong data governance embedded, and then enabling the downstream teams to really reuse that would really make the process a lot easier for your organization. So we have a lot of documentation out there for how to have a best architecture and use a golden data set approach where applicable. And this would be one example here where you can visualize if the data duplication is happening and if people are not really making use of these endorsement labels. So that's one example of how you can effectively flag potential misuse of your assets.
Yeah, and it's a golden semantic model, right?
Yes, and it's now called semantic model as of now. Yes.
I'm sorry. I just and for people who don't know, the golden data model, I think that came from Accelerator BI. He's the guy who's published that's Matt Allington. Supercharge your Power BI reports. He's got a number of books out there on this. He's had some people like steal his books and publish them online, so which is a really crappy thing to do. So if you were thinking, gee, I'd like to learn more about working with these golden semantic models. I'm going to highly recommend you go out and buy Matt's book. I have it someplace. I don't have it within reach. So just a little plug for Matt there.
Yeah, and then of course, again, looking at the trends and really justifying whether something is long term and sustainable or there's like sporadic patterns. So sometimes you could see like load testing, for example, where you're seeing 10 times the amount of activity, and of course that has implications for your capacity as well. So it's important to really see whether something is falling outside of your typical normal trends, and you can make use of our built-in features like Copilot and anomaly detection, so that can really help to set up the right experience for you. And of course, now with the data activator, you can actually start creating automated alerts on top of the reports that feed from this data.
All right. I've got a question for you, Bogdan. It's specifically on that topic because I bet there's no one who knows that more than you. How many data activators are running at Microsoft? Is it below 100 or above?
That's something I would have to check with the
Okay.
special team. There's actually a PM that owns that side, but from what I've seen, like Data Activator works quite nicely with the reports, and from the admin monitoring perspective, I haven't seen any challenges or limitations. So I'm encouraging you to try that out to set up your own alerts.
I'm kind of joking. We're introducing Data Activator. There's lots of people that are starting to use it. It is very good. I think it's going to be one of those things that people like don't remember to do because it's very different than what we've done in the past, right? Like it's how do you build to ensure you're creating a call for action, and I think that's critical, and I love that that's inside this report, so we can even see how many people are actually doing that, right? Because our business users are asking it for that. It'd be great to be able to say like, yeah, we've heard you, we're doing that, and look, here are the people that are doing that. That's awesome.
Yeah. And lastly, is very important to quantify how many parts of the capacity or workspaces are not even used at all. So I'll be demoing this especially, and it's quite easy to do with what we have now. So by looking at all the inventory across the tenant and by correlating with the activities, we can quickly see whether there's dormant workspaces or even inactive users that have a certain license. Again, that's all the different questions that admins have when they're looking at all this data. And that's hopefully what we're trying to simplify for you. Yeah.
All right. Awesome.
Yeah. So this one I covered a little bit, but it's from the lens of the user. So looking at classifying the different users within the organization. And this changes from company to company. So it's very important to have your set of mapping tables that you're currently using, and those can quickly be brought into the composite semantic model that I'm going to be demoing. So effectively, let's say you have a typical org chart and you have departments and you're mapping to your um, Active Directory, formerly known as Active Directory group. You can effectively map for each user ID, what department they sit in. And then once you have that information, you can actually start to see the inventory or the consumption or authoring by the particular departments. And that's very important. Again, going back to justification of cost, if there's certain reports that are being viewed by leadership, you can quickly actually map that so the different users that are viewing the reports and see whether they fall within that area, and then that way you can start flagging the critical, reports that need to be maintained with higher level of scrutiny.
Oh, that's a great point. Be able to like group together and make sure your CFO's report is always up. Your CEO's report is always available. That honestly, that's a great a great a, a great idea. A question for you, Bogdan. This is not in the chat. This is something really off base here. But at one point in time, there was a long, drawn out conversation about like, and maybe this is like you can't say, and if you can't say, and this is NDA, like this NDA, but like there's a big conversation about like we would love to be able to establish and say like on a ranking scale, like priority, like this is a 1, this is a 2, this is a 100, right, and be able to like rank the priority of items. Have you heard anything about that in any way that you could share with people?
No, I don't think I can provide the information on that. I'm afraid.
Okay. All right.
Chris likes to get people in trouble. Don't let him trick you.
Not trying to get anyone in trouble. I just it's something I've wanted for a long time. I know it'd be awesome if we could like, hey,
so cool.
Prioritize the CEO's stuff because well, he signs all the checks, right? So.
Or even when you get an alert email, that can be marked with a high importance flag or something. Yeah.
Yeah. To answer the question, I think in terms of organizing the content, now with subfolders, you can start putting content that's deemed highly important into special designated areas. You can make use of your certification, sensitivity labels and endorsement labels. So those things should be used as much as possible because then you have the right visibility and you have the right audit for the items that are deemed as important.
Hold on, we have folders. Oh, let's keep going. I don't think folders are a thing, man.
No, I'm saying that eventually there's going to be the concept of expanding folders.
Okay. Good. Okay. Yeah. Eventually.
Yeah.
Yes. Eventually. I was going to say yes. Okay. That makes sense. Things in folders. Okay. Good.
But the other ones we can use now. To your point, Bogdan. Yeah. The sensitivity labels and
yeah.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
I was hoping I missed something. Like, oh, did I miss a folder thing? That'd be great. Oh, awesome. Okay. Good. That makes perfect sense. We can keep going on there. I think it would also, especially here, I think one of the big things that companies look for, or I've always looked for, are who are my champions, right? And seeing the people who are most active, not just on the building side, right? Like the people who are building stuff are always, well, not always, are often very vocal and interactive. I think there are people that are like always using data and analytics that can run silent and like, Cheryl in accounting is awesome, but you don't talk to her all that often. And yet, Cheryl in accounting uses that report 47 times a day, right? Like that'd be good to see and know, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that's where it comes down to each company how they decide to map users. But department is one area. Another one is to look at the specific category. So is this a guest user? Is it a home tenant user? Um, and I think there's just a lot of effective ways to effectively look at your IDs and figure out which users fall within that umbrella. Are they part of accounting? Are they part of audit? And also correlating their usage patterns. So maybe like audit teams, they typically have sporadic ad hoc patterns, and you want to see whether that falls in line with your expectations.
I think that makes good sense.
And then
So I'm
lastly,
assuming
again,
eventually. Oh, sorry, Bogdan. Just a quick question for you. With that, I know a lot of accounting teams have quarterly reports, and in the past, a lot of our reporting has been limited to 30 days, so we don't really get to see those trends. Um, are you guys thinking through like a different time frame of data you'll store, or is there an option for us to store data more long term?
that's a great question. And again, it's one of our top of mind priorities, but unfortunately, it's too early to give a definitive answer, but it's something we've heard a lot and we've seen a lot from our customers.
Awesome.
Okay, that makes good sense.
Yeah. So lastly, this part about user activities, it's important to correlate licensing with activities and figuring out are licenses used in the best way, and that also means how many users actually have a license that's not being used a lot, and can we consider reallocating. Another example is to look at trials. So if a lot of users are opening trials, perhaps it's worth considering migrating them to a pro license or a PPU.
Mm.
What a good idea.
Inventory we talked about before. So inventory is closely related with audit, but this is the area that you're looking at the workspace, you're looking at all the items within workspaces, you're also looking at the capacities, and there's a lot of descriptive fields. So I'm not going to go into a lot of details, but the data model that we're building is very flexible and scalable. So you can actually add a lot of nuances to how the different dimensions fit together and how that relates with the respective audit.
Nice.
And of course, a key area, even from our own internal compliance and risk teams, they're using the workspace to really mitigate risk. They want to understand quickly what's happening. Is there a lot of content that's being viewed maybe by too many people? And again, I'm going to go back to the idea of the labels. If items are labeled as highly confidential, for example, but then you're seeing that a lot of people are sharing them and there's a lot of consumption, then it's going to be a lot easier to quantify that when it comes to the audit and compliance checks.
One of the things that just crosses in my head, and maybe you can help me understand this, is how well does this scale at performance on the back end? Is the back end of this just Delta files that the solution's querying, or how does that work? Right? Like I'm thinking of if I have 100,000 workspaces, am I going to have challenges here?
No, the way we built it is to really scale well, and we've actually, just to give an example, we've looked at our top 10 largest tenants, including even Microsoft, that's one of the largest in the world, and we've multiplied that by 10, and we've seen if the data actually can hold for something like that. And the data was running just fine because we're using best practices, so we're reducing our any sort of extraneous information. We're really making each table as standalone as possible. So by having the star schema approach, we've really minimized on the size and compute. But to answer the first part, so far it's within a semantic model in a report. We are still finalizing on the future. Of course, that is very closely related with the long-term retention aspect. So that's something that's still
Sure.
going to evolve.
Hey, you brought up an interesting question there. Who's using more Power BI than Microsoft? Can you tell us?
Unfortunately, we cannot share that publicly, but I just wanted to at least tell you, obviously, Microsoft is among our top largest tenants because it is highly used in our organization. And we always try, when we build products within the workspace, we always try to scale with the top largest tenants, including our own. So I just wanted to give you the example that we're usually going far beyond the limit, and we're trying to make sure it accommodates things like 3 times, 10 times the limit. Yeah.
Well, that's fantastic. For those of you, if you're watching and you happen to work at a place that's consuming more Power BI than Microsoft, I would really like to know. So, like, hit me up on LinkedIn or Twitter, or just personal. Like, would like to hear who that is, and I appreciate Bogdan for not exposing that. I understand. Don't want Bogdan fired for nothing. So, but out of just curiosity, I'd like to know who's using more Power BI than Microsoft.
All right. So I think I'm going to cut it short a little bit and go to the next demo, but I think we covered the broad context. So what are the sort of interplays between the different pillars, and what scenarios do people typically have in their day-to-day, and how does this workspace really address these? So now let me introduce the workspace.
Hi, are you looking to get a bird's eye view of your tenant across Fabric? Or to understand who is doing what? Then the admin monitoring workspace may be a good administration, governance, and compliance needs. Tenant and global admins can see the admin monitoring icon on the workspace pane at the top. When you select this option for the first time, the workspace will be automatically installed. Later, when opening the workspace, it will also give you content and updates automatically installed. Although the workspace is read-only, you also get build permissions and will be able to also reshare content with others later on. Now let's explore some of the out-of-the-box content. Starting with the feature usage and adoption report. The overview page gives a 30-day snapshot view across capacities, and you can also drill down into workspaces. And you can see the top-ranking users and the most popular activities. Next, we explore the analysis page, which brings some of the core strengths and functionality of the data model in a very interactive format. This page combines the inventory metadata with activity events, and through the help of AI visuals can provide further insights. You can also export these insights later to a table, outside to Excel, or you can set up alerts. Let's look at one example. Looking at admin monitoring workspace alone, you can see there's no guest user activities, and we can look at specifically viewing reports, and we can see how this trends over time. Next, let's explore the content sharing report, which is going to be in private preview shortly. The overview page can help flag areas with potential oversharing. A level view of how many items are placement and sensitivity labels. This resulted in a net new report, as well as to support security and compliance requirements around asset oversharing. In the overview page, we can get a tenant level view of how many items are endorsed or have sensitivity labels applied, and we can get more information across different item types. Similarly, we can look at specific sensitivity labels and see how the adoptions are trending over time. We can get more detailed analysis throughout the other pages or by connecting to the data. We also plan to grow this tenant. Hi, are you looking to get a...
Uh-oh. We restarted.
Space.
Oh, is that the end?
And yeah, there's going to be another demo, but this was just initially to show the workspace, how to access the workspace, how to share content. And there was a little blurb there about things that are coming up as well. So stay tuned. As we go into public preview with those, we're going to be sharing the documentation. So we have a lot of excitement building around the new reports that are coming up, but so far they're still in early phase. So I don't have enough information to share at the moment, but basically the workspace will gradually grow. You'll see a lot more insights and data being added. And
Okay,
let
so
me talk about
there's actually a good question in there that we had before, and look, Daryl, I did queue it up, and we'll ask it now, which is the right time. Daryl's asking, he's saying he has admin access to this workspace through Privileged Identity Management, or PIM. How can he set the workspace so it can keep refreshing once his access expires?
That's a great question, and unfortunately, it is something. It's a top pain point. So we're
Okay.
prioritizing with engineering today to fix that. But we did roll out a fix actually at the end of last year, where now if you're getting consecutive failures, there's a process that kickstarts automatically the data refresh for you, so you don't have to worry about deleting and recreating the workspace.
Okay. Well, that's good. Not, Daryl, not exactly what you want, but they're aware of it. They're working on it and
Yeah.
improving it. So, good point.
But,
Okay.
But with that being said, once you create the workspace, you should be able to get fresh data. Within for every single week, you should be able to get new data being picked up, even if maybe once or twice you get interrupted. We have a process that basically steps in once there's particular refresh issues. The workspace fixes itself, so you do not have to delete and create a new workspace.
Okay, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Wait, can you delete and recreate a admin monitoring workspace?
Yes. So just like any other workspace, if you go to the workspace settings page, you can actually delete that workspace, and then you can also call the APIs and delete the workspace, and then that will effectively you can start fresh if you ever have to delete it. Yeah, we have functionality for that.
All right. Well, what do you know? Learn something new every day. How exciting. Sorry, let's keep going.
Yeah. So just in the interest of time, I'm gonna just focus on our core areas for just a few more minutes, and then we'll dive into the composite model exercise, which I think is going to be more exciting for the rest of the folks. But just to close in on the core areas, so far the workspace has the tenant level view for usage and adoption of your entire fabric. So it's not just Power BI. The model is built in such a way that you can filter by areas. For example, you can look at Spark, Custo, or you can look at exclusively just semantic models and reports. So it's up to you how you want to focus, but the data is all there. And these semantic models are powering the out-of-the-box report experience, but you're able to also connect to them. You can also share them with your BI teams as well, and they can build on top of that data, like I'm going to be showing in the demo at the end. Yeah, so starting with the first part is the audit logs. Until this workspace existed, the only way to get audit was to have privilege, higher level permissions to extract the data either through the website or through APIs and PowerShell. But now with the workspace, you do not have to worry about that. It's out of the box, so you don't even have to have a premium workspace. You can use just a regular out of the box shared workspace, and you'll start getting up to 30 days of audit. Within it's going to start collecting up to 30 days the moment you click the workspace, and it starts the process. After the end of it, you'll get like a scheduled refresh, and once per day, it's going to pick up that latest day. And once you get to 30 days, it automatically just stores the last day. Then the next part is the metadata. So most people run scanner APIs today to get metadata. Here in this model, we're getting some of the top used metadata dimensions. And over time, we're looking to build more. But for now, we started with the capacity and workspace and user dimensions. And also, of course, the fabric items dimension, which actually is a big leap because in the past, we've had multiple different dimensions by different items, but we were able to consolidate them under one table. So that really makes the extension experience a lot smoother. And you can also, if you choose to, you can filter by the specific sub areas as well. All right.
Okay.
So let me actually cover again the two reports that are out there today. So there's the usage and adoption, which is using the audit and inventory data. And then the second one is the Purview Hub report, which focuses on the overview of your inventory, like with respect to the sensitivity and inventory and the endorsement labels. So that's very important for quantifying how many workspaces are in compliance with whatever your organization has requested, and how does that trend over time. So you can also track when the labels were applied.
Okay, that's fantastic. We've got two questions quick. Would this benefit from premium per user capacity? Can you add that to an admin workspace or no?
Yes, it's possible to switch, but at the moment there's no need. Currently, we're in the preview phase, so we do not have yet the requirement or benefit to really turn that on. Yeah,
That's good to know. So don't do that. Good,
Yeah.
good to hear. And then, are there any roles that can be assigned to Fabric admin or different other users for monitoring their own workspaces, so that we can like automatically filter it down, so they're just looking at their content?
Some kind of
That's a-
row-level security.
Mhm.
that's a great question. Again, on the top of our minds for planning, and unfortunately, we do not have enough information, but that's the top priority for us to really finalize on.
Oh boy, wouldn't it be great to automatically add that based upon who has access to the workspaces?
That'd be so
Yeah.
nice.
It's got something there. And then Daryl had one last question here. Can I include a reference data table in the model? For example, user table will be conformed in cleansed company department location, or is that
Yeah.
what you're about to show us?
That's
that
what
the
I'm about
composite
to
model?
show. Yeah, but great question.
Well, Daryl's setting us up. All right, let's head in.
Yeah. So let me actually just jump into that. It's probably best to save a bit of time for the end. So let's talk about the core model. So through our extensive Center of Excellence guidance, we always promote the tool, the discipline at the core, flexibility at the edge model. And that's exactly what we've been doing here with this model. We start with just, you can count them, just 5 dimensions in one fact table. And that's all it takes to effectively start your journey. So now you're able to see for a given capacity how much usage we have. For a given workspace, how many items are within that workspace, how are they being used, et cetera, et cetera. If you choose to add additional attributes, you can actually merge, bring your own tables and get additional context. So that's what I'm going to be showing in the demo.
All right, this is exciting.
All right, so let me do the demo right now.
Hi, the extended global model. Starting with the user table. Here we're looking at expanding the user dimension with 2 additional attributes. Starting with licensing information, which can be collected from the AD Azure Active Directory group. And by mapping on the user ID, we're able to create a very simple relationship to calculate number of licenses according to each user. Similarly, we can collect some organizational specific information from departments, and you can also correlate each user to a corresponding department. Another interesting example is to look at the audit table and to be able to categorize each operation by specific category. In this case, we're looking at consumption and authoring categories. Now we're going to look at some of these extensions to the model. We can quickly see for this tenant how many activities are part of consumption and how many are part of authoring. This, of course, can be interchanged with many other dimensions, including workspaces, as well as specific users, and we can start to have a lot of useful insights by slicing that operation within these categories. Another interesting example is to look at the different workspace types and see what is the proportion of activities authoring versus consumption by each group. So for example, are the personal workspaces in the tenant doing a lot of consumption? How about workspaces like admin monitoring? And of course, you can look at the overall
breakdown of each operation and see how that fits within the category. Moving on, we can see how useful the department mapping can be. We can quickly infer which users within that department perform the most activities. We can correlate with workspace types, with the number of items that are impacted, and the total number of activities. You can also see, for example, how many licenses are being used currently, and that actually will be in the next slide. So here we're looking at correlating the inactivity with license as well. So for example, you would like to see how many users today have a pro license but are not using it. And we can see that's a total of 59 users. And see within your tenant how many are part of that and how many are actually guest users as well. Making use of our inventory insights, we can quickly correlate capacities with their respective workspaces. And here we can see for this tenant, the top driver of activity is actually in shared. So of course this requires pro licenses for usage. And we can see different metrics such as number of total users, unique users within the period. We can see the breakdown of how many workspaces actually are inactive. And also we can see how when was the last time they were active. So for the ones that are active, 3,600 workspaces, we can see that a lot of them have actually not even been used in the last 2 to 3 weeks. So this is a simple way of correlating workspaces with capacities, and also within the workspace you can see how many items has. Say we're interested in looking at this particular capacity. We can see that a large amount of the capacity actually empty workspaces and also inactive workspaces. So let's say we're interested to look deeper and see what's causing this. We can drill down and we can go to the drill through to the next workspace page. And here we can add additional metrics. So again, looking at the breakdown between personal workspaces, and we can see what within this capacity, which are the top workspaces by the number of items, how many of them are active, how many of them are inactive, and so on.
Well, that is
Questions?
awesome, Bogdan.
Yeah.
Yes. So, can you auto-generate PowerShell scripts to help us clean this up based upon this report?
Very good question. We're not there yet to really join the automation with the insights. That's something on the roadmap for long term. But at least for now, the data can help to trigger some, investigation for you. Because if you're seeing obvious patterns that are really not well suited for your organizational needs, you can start setting up alerts. You can start setting up your respective communication levels, but at least eventually the same data hopefully can be reused in that sense. You can try to take the data that's deemed as needing further investigation and hopefully pushing that out to other automation. But sorry, at the moment we do not have a clear answer.
That's perfectly fine. But this is a challenge to all of you interns at Microsoft for your next hackathon. Create a Git repo of PowerShell scripts that can be dynamically generated through DAX that can be built inside of, used inside of the existing solution, the existing report. That would be awesome.
Yeah, I'm sure it would solve a lot of today's problems faster.
Right? Like all you need is someone who's really sharp and 8 hours to like run through and just like build out a pattern of these, throw them in a GitHub repo, publish that out, and then like you could have huge value right there.
Yeah.
All right, Bogdan, I want to know what intern is going to do this.
Chris wants
$1,000,000
their name,
question.
phone number, home address. Buy him dinner, all kinds of good stuff. Yeah. This
I'm
is so
sorry.
cool though, Bogdan. I mean, seriously, that is awesome. I have had so many people ask me for that kind of thing in the past, and it takes a long time to build, right?
Yeah.
Especially if you don't have access to that kind of permissions, if you're not a Fabric admin or if you're not a Microsoft 365 admin, so you can't give yourself those kind of permissions. This would be awesome.
Yeah.
Well, and I like this pattern of using the composite model because then you can have those other assets built out by those admins who have those um, have that access. Then
Mhm.
all you have to do is get read access to that, and you can add that into your composite model, and now, bing bang boom, you've got this, right?
Yeah.
Wow, that is fantastic, and that's wonderful, man. Um, Oh, that's great. Oh my, we are like I thought it said 12. I thought it was 47, not 57. So
Cool.
I'm like, oh, I guess we got 10 more minutes. But no, we're we are nearly at the end of everything. So we'll start wrapping up. Bogdan, what is now we're very grateful for you taking the time to do this. And honestly, I'm straight up so grateful to all of your engineers who are diligently working hard at bringing these features to life. What is it that we can do for you to help you with this?
I think we got a very well balanced set of feedback, and I'm really thankful for that. Some of it is actually something on our top priority list. Some of it is new, and I'll love to share with our field, everything. But at the moment, I think it's very important to be open in the community and really let us know your needs, your pain points, and we want to make sure we have the up to date feedback. Now with Fabric, how are those needs changing? And what are the typical patterns that you're looking to solve, and how can this tool help you better? So by using the workspace today, you can figure out whether it fits your needs, and if not, how can we help to make it better? Because we really want to invest over time to make this reusable and self-serve experience for your administration needs.
So I'm hearing use it is what you need us to
Yes,
do.
use it,
And feedback.
build things, play around with different features, and make sure everything works. If not, let us know.
So I presume we submit feedback to ideas.fabric.microsoft.com.
Yes,
Is
yes.
that it? Is there any special hashtag you want as part of it to get your attention?
If you do a hashtag admin monitoring, that would be great.
Okay. Hashtag admin monitoring. Awesome. All right. Christina, any last questions for Bogdan?
Just one. What's the thing you're most excited about with this project?
The fact that we're laying out the foundation, we're just starting. So we're going to add a lot more content, a lot more different moving parts. We're closely interviewing customers almost every day. We're seeing their solutions, and we're trying to make it as exciting for everybody else as we can.
Awesome.
That is absolutely fantastic. Bogdan, any chance at any NDA information you could share with us that we've not heard before?
That's a
No.
trick question, so I'll say no.
Oh, that's the right answer. That's the right answer. I apologize for tempting you. So thank you
Chris is
guys.
actually really jealous of your job. That's what's happening here. He really wants it.
Straight up so jealous. Because you get to work on the greatest platform ever. So how wonderful is that?
It's exciting.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, Bogdan, Christina, thank you guys so much. Thank everyone, all of you, for joining us and listening to this live stream. We really appreciate each and every one of you. If you do have questions that you want to hit us up with, leave them in the comments down below. Try to get through and answer every question. I am not great at it, but I'm trying to get better. All right. Otherwise, we will see you. Actually, oh my, I'm doing that learn together thing tomorrow.
Yes, you
I'm
are.
yeah, that's tomorrow. So I got learn together, and I'm late for my at scale thing. We do a deep dive into performance of Fabric at scale. well on at scale. It's really good. So check out that. And then Fabric Fridays, we got Sequel Jeans. So you don't want to miss that one either. All right. Awesome. Thanks, everybody. Peace.
Bye.
Bye.
Baker Tilly Digital combines strategic industry insight and advanced technical expertise to uncover and solve your digital transformation challenges. If you're interested in learning more, check out our website at bakertilly.com/digital. Oh, we are still